Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
It's Money on Tap's insightful Summer Sector Series, diving into the hottest investing sectors for the season, analyzing major players, market trends, and emerging opportunities with expert guidance to make smart investments. Today on Money on Tap, we conclude our Summer Sector Series with our Cliff Notes edition, a summary overview of all 11 investment sectors that we've covered this summer. Thank you for being a part of it. Our final Summer Sector session starts now.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. My name is Seth Cressman, here with Dan Mickelin and Ben Brayshaw. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm sure Dan's feeling a lot of relief, kind of getting out of the summer school program we put him through.
That's right.
And school's going to start right again for you, Dan.
Flashbacks to college graduation. I made it.
I got to tell you, I really had a great time doing the Summer Sector Series that we did. You know, for our listeners that are joining us today for, the first time, or maybe you missed a few episodes, I would highly encourage you. We broke down all 11 sectors of the S&P 500. We talked a lot about kind of the developments, kind of foreshadowing some of the sectors, talking about the history, the development, the kind of the restructuring that's taken place. And we're going to recap a lot of that, kind of hit some of these highlight points. So if you didn't listen to any of the previous 11 sectors, or you listen to a few of them, this will help, kind of get some kind of cliff note points for you. But I also think that if you find something that you're saying that's really interesting, I would encourage you to go back to the show, because the depth of it is pretty substantial for the average investor. And I think something that, enough of us need to really sharpen our skills. And I mean, this is what we do for a living. And I would say all of us have talked about, some various things. Some we included in the show, some we didn't, but things we learned, which was really unique. It's like, hey, wow, I didn't realize the development of that, or the history of this, or, what's going on with that space as much, because it's maybe not an area we invest in on a daily basis either. So, every investment firm, company has a focus, has a kind of its niche area where they are, feel comfortable investing in managing assets inside the stocks or whatever investment world you're doing. And I said, as we kind of expand some of these things, it's been interesting because it's just not a sector I might use on a regular basis. So,
yeah, this has been an experience for all of us. I love the way that you share that we're here to learn too. Something that I don't think everybody realizes as they're coming and sitting down and meeting with us. You know what? As advisors, we are learning every single day. And we love that we can bring the knowledge here to you and share it with you, and that we can grow together. And that's one of the things that I always, at the end of the show, want to just let people know, hey, today you won. You are absolutely investing in yourself. That's the game of life. Good for you for being here today. And that includes you too, Ben. I really appreciate that you're here winning with me.
Dan and I are here just to learn from you, Seth. We're just letting everyone listen into our learning experience. This has been awesome.
Hey, if you are here and you're saying to yourself, okay, I really love this show, and one of the things that you can do for us just to give back is to subscribe in the podcast world. Just go ahead and click the follow, click the subscribe. If there's a star that you can give us there, please share that, and write something that you learned, something that you want, anything. All of that feedback really helps us to grow the show, build awareness. Some of the stuff that you guys send to us that way is incredible. New opportunities to learn and grow in that way too. So thank you for doing that. When you do, send us a message at info@yourmoneyontap.com, because we want to send you some Money on Tap gear. We got some really cool stuff to share with you. It's fun to engage. The distance that we have no clue where you're at in the world. And it just gives us a really cool opportunity to just get to know you and to share this part of our heart with you. So thank you very much for doing that ahead of time. You know what? We have the Summer Sector Series Cliff Notes edition or wrap up, whatever you want to call it. We're going to get down to business. We're going to cover so much today. Listen to some more, learn some more, and share that with somebody that you love and you care about as well. With that, it is time for Money in the News.
Today we get some information coming to us from a little bit of a different source, from Tech Brew, written by Jordan Grzelewski. EV battery swapping startup Ample tests its tech on Japan's roadways. And I think this was a great article and a great idea, and it's something that we've kind of long talked about, the evolution of EVs into the automotive and just American landscape. And one of the challenges has been, besides the weather issues they've faced and, the whole battery production, how clean it is or is not, or truly is not. But the fact that you need to, to recharge the battery takes so much time. So on any given trip, you got to plot out exactly where you're going to stop, how long you'll be able to spend there, and go through the issue of, sitting there for a half hour or more just to get a charge back in your battery. Well, this company, Ample, is piloting a program in Japan that is, I think, a great concept here. And what it is, it's a fully automated battery replacement stop. So similar to pulling into a gas station, this whole exercise should take about 5 minutes and is fully automated, so 100% done by robots. You'll be able to pull in Japan with your EV into a stall that will have your dead or dying battery removed and replaced with a fully charged one, and you're back on your way, right out onto the road, which I think is just a huge plus. And if that's something that can really be built upon and done on an automated basis, I think this ultimately would be a massive win for the whole EV space.
Oh, this is a really great idea. And I think it's supposedly going to take less time to swap out the battery than it does to fill up your Suburban. I've thought about this a couple times. I pulled into a gas station the other day, and I was like kind of not sure about the area. You know what I mean? Like you're driving, and you're like, I'm not familiar with this area. Like, is this a good place for me to gas up? And I see like a couple charging ports, and maybe it's just me, but like now this family of 4 is sitting at a charging port for 30, 40 minutes or whatever, right? I mean, I'm thinking to myself, I want to pump this gas as fast as I can. I might do a half a tank. I mean, everyone's been there like, let me just get some gas in the tank so I can get out of here. I was thinking to myself, these poor people are going to be sitting here for a half hour. Like, I can't wait to get out of here. So when you think about every gas-powered car out there, right, they all use the same nozzle to fill it with gas. There's not different nozzles. There's not different anything. It's just you can go to any gas station in the world, and the only thing that's a little bit different is the diesel one, which is bigger, so it doesn't fit in. We have completely, organized the fueling up world. It makes sense to organize the EV world. It makes sense to make these batteries something that just slide in and out, and they should all be the same battery. They should all be the same plug. It should be uniform. And it makes sense that they could just, I think these batteries should be these, round tubes, and they just slide them in and they pop out the other side or whatever, this is the right way to go. This company is going to do something. I don't think they're publicly traded, but I think this is exactly what we need. These batteries go bad so quick, right, Seth? What do? Do you have to pay a membership fee to, keep your battery constantly moving in a positive, healthy direction?
Yeah. Having something that's universal so that every EV can get its battery swapped out and they don't have to redesign the vehicles necessarily. So there's that. And then there's also the build out or the infrastructure. How inexpensive and how quickly can they do that? They can pop one of these up in 3 days. Pretty much all of those hurdles that they needed to address, they have. And they even ran this with Uber in Southern California, I think, before really launching now in Japan. One of the things in Japan that I didn't realize is that they're kind of behind on the EV vehicles. I think they have around 2% versus us, we're around 7%. But they're, of course, going to have a 2035 cutoff for all gas-powered vehicles. I laugh because that's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. We're not going to do that. It's not happening, you guys. But what is happening is that the DOJ accuses real estate software company of helping landlords to collude to raise rents. This was from NPR. Jennifer Luden, thank you so much for bringing us this article. This is fascinating. For one, investing in real estate. It's one of the things we're going to cover today. It's part of the DNA of investing. Real estate's huge. So what this company has done, and RealPage is the name of the company, is they've gone and they've taken a look at the data of what rents are in areas across you name it, apartments or multiplex, whatever the rentals are, and they've gathered that information and they've offered it as a subscription service to landlords and real estate owners so that they have awareness of what's going on in their market. And then it makes a suggestion of where they should price their rents. And apparently that information should not be available to them because it gives them an unfair advantage. And what they're saying is that it's basically an antitrust action where they're taking this to the federal courts and trying to do something about it. I'm sorry, I cannot. If you can't tell, I cannot believe that this is actually what people are saying that is happening.
Well, I just think it's
them for.
At any point in time, the DOJ is suing you because your product's so good that you're destroying the public marketplace. You just have to go home and say, I'm the man or woman, whatever.
Good job. Good job well done.
Like, you have cornered the market and congratulations, you're a monopoly. Because at that point in time, you own Boardwalk Park Place and all of the greens, yellows, oranges, and reds. Like, you might even own Baltic and you don't even care. At this but it's really interesting because you think about it, you're a landlord, and I would say that a vast majority of people in America own some sort of piece of real estate. We talked about that, whether you're renting out your apartment in your basement, or you're have a small apartment building, or you're a big commercial landlord. You need to know, like, what should I rent this for? Right? Like, I need to get this rented because I need to help pay the bills. So how much is a good, fair price that will get this thing rented quickly? And this software product from RealPage will tell you, hey, listen, this is the bottom of the market and this is the top of the market. So you're like, oh, I need to rent this right away because I got bills due and so forth. I'm going to rent it at the bottom of the market so I can fill as many of my units as possible. But then you're like, hey, you know what? I have a really great location. I need to know, like, what's the top of the market because I don't want to under rent this thing because, I need to grow this business and this is what I'm in. I'm in a business. So RealPage will tell you this is the top of the market space. And it's not straight out to, manipulate the market. It's just that they have the data of everybody in who's renting, 80% of them out there. And I mean, how many times I've called, we have a small little rental place in one of our office buildings. I call the realtor. I say, hey, what is this renting for? Because we want to put it on the market. We put it on the market at whatever rate he tells us, and we hope that that's a good, fair rate. That's my RealPage phone call, right? But he may even have access to that software for all I know. I don't. So I think it's interesting that I get what they're saying. Like big rental companies could say, hey, listen, we own all this real estate in this area, and we can move this number up quite a bit across the board and push the rates. I get that, but that is also a portion of capitalism. So I struggle with that piece a little bit because interest rates have gone up so high and the cost to run buildings, like trash disposal, Dan, that's doubled in 3 or 4 years. Doubled. I mean, we can talk about the price of milk, but my trash disposal has gone up 100%. So these are real costs, and these people need to raise the rates because they need to pay more. I mean, it's just simple mathematics. It's not unfair. It's not like, hey, everything's been zero inflation and they're just manipulating the market to get the highest rate. So there's a lot of competing factors here that people are saying, how much can I get because the costs are so extravagant right now too.
Yeah, I think
to jump in on the quote here and say what they're saying is that they allege, quote, that RealPage pricing algorithm enables landlords to share confidential, competitively sensitive information and align their rents. So it's the price fixing component that they're really trying to kind of target here, which you illustrated greatly, really well. My utilities are price fixed. They have a corner in the market, right? That's not an open free market, really, even as much as they've said it is. But Dan, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think where they got into trouble is that, this particular software package has 80% of the marketplace, subscribing to it. So the vast majority of commercial lenders or real estate renters are using the same software. So I think the argument is simply that, now they're sharing information that they used to be kind of a competitive secret. So what was once competitors is now operating as a group, as a conglomerate, and totally control the pricing in that market space. So, is there an argument there? Yeah,
I mean,
probably,
they're not the ones doing the pricing. That's the thing. That's the whole thing the judge is pointing out. They're not actually saying, they're not the landlord saying, well, this is what I'm going to charge. I mean, a landlord could still list an apartment that's a piece of crap.
They can communicate with each other through the software, so they can do that.
Right, but the real page is not doing that. Like they're providing
they're the tool.
They're the tool.
Correct.
But they're not the actual landlord making the decision on what they're renting it for.
Right. I see that, and I think that is a fair argument that, I don't think RealPage, has a dog in this fight at all, but they are the tool through which these landlords are colluding.
So the DOJ could say, let's turn this off, and then no one wants RealPage anymore. Or they lose 50% of their subscribership.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not a fan of the suit, but I can see what's going on here. And I think it is definitely not in the renter's favor.
Yeah.
That's a wrap for Money in the News. But not for us here, because we are coming back with more of the Summer Sector Series, the Cliff Notes edition. We're going to cover all 11 sectors of the S&P 500 with you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. This is Dan Mickelon of Brayshaw Financial Group. Are you looking for professional guidance to kickstart your investing journey? Look no further. Brayshaw Financial Advisors are here to help. Our team of experts will provide you personalized advice tailored to your financial goals. Visit us at BrayshawFinancial.com today and schedule your free consultation. Brayshaw Financial, investing made easy.
Thank you for joining us for Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's show with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are wrapping up the Summer Sector Series, covering all 11 sectors of the S&P 500 with you today and giving you kind of the Cliff Notes edition of what we've been doing this summer. Loads of great stuff that's, the content is rich as we kind of go gloss over, give you some of the highlights inside of what we've covered this summer. Please, if there's something there that you think is noteworthy or really gets you kind of thinking a little differently, go back into the archives of Money on Tap and pull forward one of the 11 sectors that we talked about this summer. Great opportunity for you to just kind of brush up or really dive a little deeper as we go into this next year and become successful in our investing. We can't wait to really cover all of these sectors with you. And as we do, please take a minute to subscribe to Money on Tap and share it with a friend, and then drop us a note and let us know, because we want to send you out some gear from Money on Tap. With that, let's go. It is the Cliff Notes edition of the Summer Sector Series as we get into the wrap. The first things that we want to kind of cover here with you is really the powerhouse sectors. And those include technology, financials, and consumer discretionary. The first of those, technology, it is a beast. If you didn't know, it is the driver inside of the market. And not only does it just consume a massive amount of investors' dollars, it is continuing to create the majority, we would say, probably of the wealth inside of the United States, which right now, that's a big deal because the majority of wealth has been traditionally created inside of real estate. But with what tech has done and moving from this growth it's just been pretty much known as a growth story. Super speculative, very topsy-turvy, don't know what's going to happen. That has changed tremendously inside of this sector. It's had to shed quite a few of those companies because it was just too large, and those got moved over into other sectors. As well, it now has one of the biggest stories and drivers inside of the economy that we've ever seen, which is AI. So let's go.
We kind of came up with, 4 general, massive sectors of all of these 11 sectors. And I think, Seth, when you talk about the technology piece, that this powerhouse sector, as we've named it, technology, financials, consumer discretionaries, you're right. Like technology, it is this kind of ever morphing, gel-like, flexible, could be this, could be that kind of conversation. Because we talked about this. And I think the thing about technology is, when I start naming, Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Amazon, Tesla, you're saying to yourself, that sounds like technology, but those aren't all technology stocks, right? Amazon and Tesla are not technology stocks. And so you start getting into trying to understand Alphabet, Google or whatever, Meta, not technology stocks. We spent a lot of that first show talking about what is technology and how that is morphing. And I think the thing that I, kind of languaged for myself, because they took so much of technology out and they've slid it into different other sectors, because technology got well over 25% of all 11 sector allocations of the S&P. They diced it down. What was it? 14%, Dan, or something like that?
Yeah, big cut.
Yeah, big cut. I mean, almost in half. And now it's back up to 25% of the S&P's allocation for different, stocks. So that's really complicated. So when we started talking about all these subsectors in technology, it's really about purpose. What is the purpose of this company? Like Amazon, its purpose is to provide the things that you want, consumer discretionary. That's the sector, right? Meta, your Facebook account. Well, communication services, that's its purpose, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about kind of as these, morphing things happen, because it's kind of like anything you talk about, it's technology. It's like anything, any industry or company you're talking about, it's like, how does AI affect this company? Well, what is AI, So there's all these different things. And I think these sectors are really all about purpose, because Google, it's not in the technology sector. Like of all the companies, if you would ask me, if we quiz somebody, I'd be like, yeah, Google, Meta, Apple, like just off the bat, like that's kind of the what seems to be the obvious technology. But it really is communication services, Google. That's its purpose. It communicates for us, whether it's, it's YouTube accounts, it's, it's email, it's just searching information, it's like, it's all about communication. So I really like the fact that they're understanding why these sectors exist and how they get developed. It's all about purpose. So we talked about these powerhouse sectors, the technology piece, and then you get into financials, the second of the three powerhouses. And I think what's nice about financials is that there's so much development in financials, whether it's the electronic currency stuff going on, whether it's banking or insurance. You can get super granular in financials, because financials is such a broad range of space that you can say, I don't want anything to do with, the coin stuff or, whatever, or I'm not into insurance companies. I just want to own banks. Well, you can get as granular as just owning banks. I think that's interesting. But if you say, hey, Fed's going to lower rates, banks are going to become less profitable, I just want to own insurance companies. You can get there. I think that's really what's great. I mean, these three powerhouse sectors. And I'm going to turn this over to Dan in a second. But then you have consumer discretionary. Consumer discretionary, it's like this is the entire world of cyclical trading. All of a sudden it's like, well, I don't need to buy that, so therefore I'm not going to. The interest rates are high, inflation's high. I'm not getting the 85-inch TV. I'm getting the 55-inch I absolutely need to get.
Yeah, I think, to your point on the opening, Ben, about how the technology sector itself has changed, or what comprised the sector, and how, just rattling off stocks of companies that we engage using a computer, you would think that they all fall into the technology sector, but due to that kind of rebalancing, they no longer do. And I think the best way to illustrate that was one of my learning experiences in going through this is, we took a look at QQQ, which is the ticker for the NASDAQ 100, which is kind of considered to be
the tech play.
That's your tech investment. If you wanted to invest in tech.
You want to own tech? Buy the Qs.
Yeah, so simple, right? But when we looked that up and kind of dug under the hood into what it actually is invested in, by means of that ETF, QQQ, only 50% of it is currently considered to be tech stocks. So I found that to be super interesting. And and one of those learning moments that we've encountered along the way here. But I think the one thing, overall that we tried to apply to each of these sectors, and I think it's important to note, is, for each of them, although they're different and, when and how they perform vastly differs in different conditions, both in the market and what's going on geopolitically in this world. But two things we tried to look at, and for those people who are going to dive back into our previously recorded shows to get a deeper dive into any of these given sectors, is, what's the AI impact on the sector? Because AI is changing this market daily. So that's one thing that we look to consider is what's the effect of AI on each of these sectors. And then secondly, so many of these sectors are vast and wide that they have subsectors within. And so we spent a lot of time looking at the ETF world to help guide people into making that decision about, well, hey, do I want to invest in technology or do I really want to invest in microchips?
Right.
Is this a tech play or am I really into data centers? So the fact that you can get so granular and so specified in the ETF world that you can buy a sector of a sector and invest that way and make that play, I think that's one of the learning experiences, for us, but hopefully for all you listeners.
Well, I think just to bring up when you were talking about buying the Qs, it's really interesting because when you look at the Q holdings, all right, you have Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Amazon, Broadcom, Meta or Facebook, Tesla, Google in both Alphabet stock holdings, and Costco. When you go to buying the SPY, which is kind of considered buying the S&P 500, right? So those top 10 holdings of the Qs is 50% of the portfolio. So when you drop your money in it, 50% of it's going to those 10 stocks. When you buy the SPY, 34% of your money goes instantly into these 10 stocks. Tell me if any of them sound the same. Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Amazon, Meta, Google, both of them. Broadcom, Tesla, and Berkshire Hathaway. The only difference between the top 10 is Berkshire Hathaway and one has Costco. So, I mean, the argument can be made when you're buying the SPY, are you really just buying another version of a tech play? Because that's what the Qs are considered. Or are the Qs migrating over to what the SPY is doing? Because that's where it's just kind of really, it's almost meaningless because when you actually buy Apple, when you buy the Qs and the SPY, Apple's 9% almost of the Qs of your holdings. So you almost put 10% of your money in Apple. Then you turn around in the SPY, you put your other half of your money there, and you put another 7% of your money in Apple.
That's an incredible point. I mean, there's a learning moment right here. I mean, a lot of do-it-yourself investors who are, index players inside their 401ks.
Well, I bought the SPY. I own the Qs.
Yeah.
Like, they tell this stuff to you all the time. And it's like, I mean, I know these things, but I point this out to investors all the time. But for the average Joe, they're just following the story of the Qs or the tech play, just like you said. And to actually line item what you own, well, if you're going to go buy the stocks, do you want to put 15% of your money or 17%, whatever it is, of your money into Apple? Well, make that decision consciously and go buy the stock.
Index investing, and you're saying, well, I'll buy a little bit of S&P, a little bit of NASDAQ, and some of the Dow, and you think you're diversified. You're not.
No, you're not at all.
You own the same stocks.
Yeah. And that's the biggest problem is that's why we went into these ETFs a little more granularly in the different sector spaces so people could get a real understanding. So you could actually dive in and say, you know what? I'm not going to buy the SPY and the Qs. That's silly. I want more diversification. This is what I'm going to do. And I think that's what we were able to really provide for that.
Yeah, you guys, diversification all over the conversation here with us today. You are listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hey guys, Seth Cressman with Brayshaw Financial Group. Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Look no further than Brayshaw Financial Group. Our team of experienced advisors is dedicated to helping beginners like you build wealth through smart investing strategies. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today and start your journey towards financial independence. Brayshaw Financial Group, your partner in wealth creation.
We appreciate you listening to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan. You can contact us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's program.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Well, if you didn't notice, we're talking about the wrap or the Cliff Notes edition of the Summer Sector series. And inside of that last conversation, which included technology, we also had tucked in there financials and consumer discretionary, really those powerhouse sectors. And the conversation, the reason I say that is because the conversation is so fluid, really. Inside of all of these sectors, you're going to hear us talk about technology. And believe it or not, inside of all of these sectors, you're going to hear us talk about energy. And even though, like, for instance, financials that we just talked about is really highlighted by interest rate changes and economic conditions, it's also inside of technology. So it was a lot of fun to really dive into that. And please go back, check out the Money on Tap. It was really it was our first Summer Sector series that we did on this in technology. So much great conversation, and even more that's developed through this process of just talking about these sectors got pulled into this last conversation with you guys. So fun. So we are now going to be talking about more in the essential sectors, or what we've really deemed or labeled as the essential sectors. And these are the utilities, healthcare, consumer staples. And one of the coolest things inside of this is that these essential sectors, like utilities, it's been traditionally like a very defensive kind of an investment. And that's been your steady Eddie. Doesn't really go up or down too much, right? Doesn't necessarily offer you too much reward because the risk is not there, because everybody needs it, right? Everybody has got to put the power on the table or in the house, wherever you're at. Or there's been defensive sectors inside of that. That's what we call them, as defensive sectors. So you can kind of invest in those during harder times, right? But that risk reward paradigm has changed. It's changed a lot. Again, because we have technology pushing that AI conversation in the background, weighting down the grid. Sound familiar? Because how does AI affect and technology affect this need for energy? Can't wait to see what you guys come up with next.
I think of all the sectors that we examined, the one that I found kind of the most enlightening and surprisingly exciting was the utility space. And it's for some of those reasons you just mentioned there, Seth. AI affects that in two very significant ways. The first one's a little bit simpler in that, they're using AI now to provide maintenance and to predict issues within the grid. So it's a more pinpointed, more targeted approach to resolving issues that have just come with kind of longevity and lack of maintenance and lack of repair in these systems. AI is helping out with that. The other thing is just the drive for electricity that AI is going to require. And we had all kinds of statistics about just how significant a massive ramp up of our electrical needs or need for electricity that AI is going to create by these massive data centers that are going to be built out everywhere just to maintain that computing power and really give AI the engine that it needs to solve our problems. So I think the utility space was by far and away, I think, probably my favorite sector, and certainly the one that I walked away with really a changed opinion about what it actually means, and to your point, Seth, what the growth opportunity exists within it.
Yeah, I think the statement that the utility sector may be the growth sector of the future is really may very well be significantly understated, and that's a big deal takeaway. I don't want to reharp that too much with you guys, but I thought the utility sector is tremendously interesting. I would encourage people to go back and listen to that show very specifically because there's just so much to it. I think healthcare, which was another one of the essential sectors that we had here, and consumer staples being the third. Utilities, healthcare, and consumer staples, the essential sectors. Healthcare has like a lot of moving parts that are going on. And one is we talk about demographics on the show all the time. Like you always want to own the Cabbage Patch doll before everyone else realizes they want it, right? I mean, I think those things are so ugly. The fact that people were getting trampled in stores for those stupid Cabbage Patch dolls. You know, I mean, there's probably 1,000 parents on the phone. I'm like, I would look at these things and be like, why would anyone want to carry one of those around in school? I would like.
You were more of a strawberry shortcake fan, weren't you?
Yeah, something like that. Anything but those things. I mean, remember they had playing cards? I just remember all the stupid stuff. But, you know, the demographics, the demand, the need of something or want of something is so super important. And I think knowing that, you know, 45, 50 million people are over 65, retired, fully retired, and that we're going to another, 70, 80 million Americans going to retire in the next 20 years. That's over a third of our country going to be retired. It's astronomical. It's just a number you can't even fathom. I mean, you're going to be like, hey, you still working? No, I'm retired. You working? No, I'm retired. No, you working? It's going to be, huge. Take that and basically the generations that don't want to work, and you're going to have nobody working. So better learn to do it all yourself, folks. But that being said, the demand for healthcare is only going to continue to rise. And in-home care, like where that's going, and this is really driving AI. AI is figuring out the quickest, fastest ways to get people to the right treatments, the very best, most effective, efficient ways to try to cure them as soon as they possibly can. And on top of that, it's figuring out home care solutions with this piece. I mean, it's just so much with AI and healthcare and the demand there. It is going to be a push, and it's an essential sector.
With that, we get to the consumer staples sector. And this has been traditionally, again, a defensive stock. And one of the beneficiaries, however, has been of the downsizing of tech, where the tech sector had gotten so large that it had to get stripped off, and parts of it got pulled over into consumer staples. And I think coming back into the mindset, really, the mindset or the understanding of what investing was when we were growing up, when Smurfs were around, and that was really popular. Just to go ahead and, sorry, Ben, I didn't really think you were a strawberry shortcake fan. I know you were.
I did
more
like
of a
the Smurfs.
guy.
I did like the Smurfs.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Now I got that song in my head the rest of the day. Thanks. What has changed? Your parents' investing is no longer the case. The consumer staples story no longer the case, because what is a staple today? It is technology. What happened in the tech crash or the bubble of 2000? Today, those stories that have come through on the other side are now the places where we go for consistency, value. It's really an interesting change inside of this story here, where we do have technology becoming part of the defensive sector in the consumer staples.
And the next group of sectors is building blocks and beyond, industrials, materials, and energy. So as it may sound, these are the kind of backbone elements that make our economy run. We're talking about the materials used to build, the builders themselves, and the energy required to produce everything, every element of our economy. And as we attempt to make this move back into manufacturing, I think that's another set of sectors that's going to, play well if that comes to fruition, if we truly do get behind that as a country and bring all that manufacturing back on shore. These are the sectors that'll benefit from that most. Industrials is an interesting one. It's all the heavy machinery. It's all of the things that make up that backbone and that kind of heart of the manufacturing industry that we hope to grow. But particularly, I think there's a couple new or growing sectors within that. One's the defense side, right? So with all the geopolitical turmoil and this kind of evolution of warfare, there are more tech heavy, again, tech and AI heavy elements going into the defense industry. And with what's going on in Europe, people are buying this stuff up. So I think that there's a real significant play there as we kind of, revolutionize what our military needs and what's for sale out there globally, with this lean towards tech heavy and AI things. And as well, aerospace. We have all these private companies jumping into the space race. We've seen quite a bit of that, and we have this whole thing going on with those astronauts that are stuck up in space as we speak here, and will be there for quite an extended stay. But the idea of private travel to space, and even it's kind of becoming more and more. I don't think it's really an industry yet, but at some point in the future it will be. People going to space on vacation, tourism.
I mean, I think about that phrase. Was it? I'm going to send you to the moon, Alice. I mean, now you actually really can.
Wow. We went from the 80s to the 50s. Now
I'm
we're
sorry.
Black and white. I mean, we're way back there.
Well,
Honeymooners.
Well, I mean, it's interesting when you think about that. But I think where I thought the building blocks was more surprising. I think where I got the most learning experience was just in the material sector, Dan. Just the no-namers out there that, between the chemicals and so forth. I mean, you'd find, Sherwin-Williams in there, and everyone knows who Sherwin-Williams is if you're using painting your house or anything. But for the most part, like a lot of these companies, they're just no-names just to pretty much 98% of the society. And they are literally the core essence to almost everything we have out there. I think I give credit to Dan because it was his idea, but I really do think, based on our idea in the concept of purposing the sectors, I mean, I really do think you're right, Dan. I could see semiconductor chips becoming, literally a material. I could see its purpose as just a building block of the world and moving out of the tech sector. I think that's wonderful foresight. When you think about the rebalancing of these ETFs, if something like that happens, Dan, and NVIDIA slides over to, the material sector one day, can you imagine what the ETF for the material sector in one day is going to jump like? I mean, that's crazy.
There'll be a massive ripple through the market. Whenever they make these changes like that, there is this kind of moment in time where
you can make a lot of money.
Yeah, the world kind of changes right before your eyes, and you know it's coming too. That's the other part, is this stuff is done, publicly. So there are opportunities like that when these rebalances occur. Part of the preparation for the show that we got into when we were discussing that, there's actually traders who exist and trade all around the balancing and the weighting of these indexes. There's actual science to that. That is an investment philosophy. It's not one we engage in, but there are people that literally just trade to get into weight.
I mean,
we're not
that much of a nerd. Not that. I mean, I think I'm going to jump into the energy, which is the next building block, and obviously it's a core element that a lot of people understand because we personally use it just to get our car started, right? I mean, we think about gas and oil. We don't really think about some of the other things that we talked about, which is the nuclear space. I think this is a really interesting place because we talked about the lack of ability that the demand of energy's growth between, essentially what's going on with AI. I mean, the amount of AI electricity used in America, energy used in America, equals the entire country of Japan's energy usage. And we're in this infantile stage. Then we have the EV cars, which are demanding energy. And honestly, you could build all the windmills you want and everything else, but the growth of that is so much faster that it's not even putting a drop in the bucket here. And the interesting space, when we had a guest on, we went through that, is where nuclear is going. The idea of clean nuclear, how they can pop up these small nuclear sites, and obviously they're going to throw clean at it just so everyone can get there. But I think we had a conversation or a little bit of a mini debate, which may make some of our green friends a little upset, but it's true. How much oil and gas did we spend to get rid of nuclear, right, in America and globally, that we actually will retreat back to nuclear in an effort to cover our energy to still be more green, right? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I understand that a lot of these plants, I had a conversation with somebody, I know a lot of these plants were misrun. They knew they were dirty. They were not doing the things correctly. But how much work could we have put in place to clean that up that we would have used a lot less oil and a lot less coal? If that's where we're really concerned, then that conversation is really a hard one to swallow. I think that's interesting.
I think the downside of nuclear was the fear of the disaster, right? Because we all remember the experiences with Chernobyl and 3 Mile Island and all that. Well, here's AI to the rescue.
Yeah.
AI will be able to maintain and guide us through the upkeep of these things in a way that potentially, hopefully, it's much safer. But to your point about the green energy, one of the things I recall from that show is that renewable energy produces about 12% of what we need today. But our growth and our energy demand is outpacing the ability to create green energy in an exponential way. I mean, that 12% number is just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Well, I think our guest, Fred Gratz, he even said it was smaller than that. I think he was like it was 4 or 7% of real numbers. Like, but you know, there's all different reports. But I mean, it's really small, and it's every day our energy needs growing so fast that percentage is, even though we're multiplying this at high levels, it's not doing the damage that it needs to do.
I'm trying to remember the how much energy or barrels we consume as Americans a year. Was it
24
like
and a half? I think it was 24
24
barrels
yeah.
per American.
Yeah.
per American? Okay, there you go. So it's 24, something like that,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
As American, and then the rest of the world really trying to catch up and be us. And what was it, India or
India,
Korea?
yeah.
I'm trying to. India uses what, about a barrel a year per person,
Correct.
if that's right. And just over the last year, 2 years, they've gone up into what, 1.5.
Yeah, they've had a 50% increase in oil consumption because they're building a middle class because they want all the benefits we have currently. They're on their way to 25 barrels.
Yeah, and they really have opened up to more of a free market economy, which is provided for this middle class and the expansion of that economy, which has been tremendous. I mean, that's a huge story. But the tie there is with the rest of the world, really, globalization is starting to happen more and more. But with that comes that drive inside of energy, and that energy really, the backbone of that energy being oil. And as much as the stories and the headlines and the desires for green energy to really be there in a way that it just is not yet, it's a story that is going to take so long for that to really catch up or evolve, or even may never even become what's what we hope for it to be. That oil is really going to be the driver. And as much as people want to kind of sweep that under or not really pay attention and understand that, it's critical for people to really have that grasp inside of the energy story, and fascinating as well when we're taking a look at, great things happening inside of economies like India. You guys, you're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere, because this is the wrap up of the Summer Sector series. And when we come back, we've got communication, real estate for you, and maybe something else tucked in there that you're just going to have to stick around to discover too. We'll be right back. You're listening to Money on Tap.
Are you looking for personalized guidance to kickstart your investing journey? Look no further. Brayshaw Financial Group and our planners are here to help. Our team of experts will provide personalized advice tailored to your financial goals. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today to schedule your free consultation. Brayshaw Financial, investing made easy.
You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are putting a wrap on the Summer Sector series. It has been a fantastic summer, a lot of fun going through this with you guys. And with that, we have a couple of sectors here that really kind of tie in nicely with everything that we've discussed so far. And that's communication. There's the communication, real estate, and how both of those really do cover and touch every part of everyone's life. We all have experiences inside of the communications stories. It's there's been a rapid evolution really in this sector, and again, driven through technology, changing communication behavior. How long ago? I mean, really, we are, if you're a Gen Xer, which we are, we're the last generation that remembers, rotary phones and knows what life was like before we had an iPhone or whatever you carry around in your pocket. And we know you do. I'm trying to think of what a percentage in the U.S. might be of people that do not have a phone. on them, it's pretty low, right? So we've all been touched by this sector, and we. Speaking of touched, I'm just remembering one of the slogans: "Reach out and touch someone." Was that an AT&T, or I think it was. I think that was part of the show that we covered. Is how
that's
many
not going to be a future marketing. That's not going to be a future marketing effort on AT&T's part.
Can't go there today. Sorry.
That's probably a restraining order on that commercial already. We don't even know about it.
Lawsuit. Great. Oh boy, what did we do? So let's drive this. Let's wrap this thing up. We've had a lot of fun with you guys here today, but we got a couple things to dive into here.
I think that's the most obvious one, right? The communication services used to be telecom. They just completely dropped the tel right out of that completely. As evolution of technology and science has brought us, the communication services sector is more about internet products than phone lines these days. And really the future of that and some of the specialization, the investment opportunities you can get into, I really think it's all about 5G and these data centers and things like that. The transference of data is the old transference of the word, right? When we did the sector special, we talked about, this used to be, someone would write a letter, throw it on horseback, ride it to the next, teletype center, or they could, pop it out in Morse code and get it coast to coast. But it took 2 weeks for you to get a word from Boston to L.A. Now it takes no time at all. I mean, we can literally have that conversation face to face by nature of the internet and never miss a beat. So, just the speed at which information travels, which is a driver of the world economy, is all built in the communication services sector. I mean, that's what it is. It is about moving data from A to B in the absolute flash of an eye, and it's got great growth potential. There's no doubt about it, because people will always be in communication. We get a little closed off, a little wrapped up in our own worlds, and technology allows us to isolate a little bit, but people still want to communicate.
They're still communicating in that isolation,
right,
just different ways. And I think that's really important for everyone to understand, that this sector will continue to evolve. And, how we communicate, whether it's, these Snap apps or, Instagram or Facebook, we're always looking for ways to say something. I think the real estate piece, I just wanted to bop on that really quick. I know we have just a couple minutes left. But I think the thing about real estate is that a lot of people don't feel qualified to really handle real estate, but they need a real estate allocation in their portfolio of investments. Because some people come to us and they're like, yeah, I own this property over here and this is my investment. Well, we kind of intentionally steer away from real estate because we don't want you to be real estate heavy. But if you don't own any real estate, it's great to explore the real estate sector, because I think healthcare, Dan, we talked about healthcare, data centers, communication services. There's a lot of different places where you can kind of get real estate exposure, and you don't have to worry about turning on the lights every day or paying the electric bill or dealing with a hot water tank. I think these kind of outliers, the real estate and the communication services are the outliers to all the other, the essential, the building blocks, all of that piece, the powerhouse sectors. These are kind of the outliers. And I think they have an interesting story to tell on their own. And I think, when we went through these sectors, we really talked about how this is really about you. This is about the listener. What are you comfortable with? What do you want in life? How do you want to communicate? What do you want to own? Are you comfortable being in real estate? And I think that's one of those kind of unique outlier pieces of these sectors as we dove into them. And very interesting from an investment standpoint, because of real estate, you can really dive ETF-wise very individualistically between commercial and office and healthcare. I think that's great.
You guys, it is so a part of the story here that what we have the opportunity to invest in can be very broad. It also could get very granular, very intentional inside of each one of these sectors. And however you would like to orient yourself or are already investing today, there's parts of your story that still have yet to be written. What is that? And how fun, what an amazing time you get to be investing in whatever your story is, and how intentional you can be inside of that as well. So much fun doing this with you guys. Thank you. Thank you for taking me through a journey with you this summer. And this Summer Sector series has been a gift. And I hope for you, our listener, that it's been a gift for you too. And with that, be successful in your investing, just like you are today, showing up here for yourself and taking this where you need in life to get you there. We're grateful for you. Thanks for reaching out to us. And we'll be here with you this next week.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of Osaic Wealth Incorporated. Osaic Wealth Incorporated and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.
Well, bye.